During the outbreak of the Second World War, a young actress from Vienna escaped the clutches of her Nazi-sympathizing husband and fled to America. Mistrusted by her colleagues in Hollywood and by much of the American public, Hedy Lamarr was determined to prove her allegiance to her new home. She, along with her neighbor George and Theo, created a new technology that was meant to assist the United States in the war and thwart German efforts to sabotage Allied torpedoes. Although Hedy is remembered for her scandalous private life, and the moniker given to her when she first arrived in America, most beautiful woman in film, her true legacy impacts us every day, from the way we do business to the way we talk with family and friends. Her invention of spread-spectrum technology, which protects wireless frequencies from interference and guarantees their transmission, has influenced wireless communications greatly, giving her not only the title of beautiful starlet, but also that of ingenious inventor. Hedwig Kiesler was born to well-off parents in Vienna in 1914. Growing up, she knew she had a passion for three things: acting, inventing, and men. As a child, she would often construct sets for herself and her dolls to be used in scenes from her imagination. She was also notoriously curious, wanting to know the intricate nature of how machines and instruments worked, making her father explain to her in detail the form and function of different things. Her curiosity and passion would lead her to remarkable feats later on in life. When Hedy fled to America in 1937, she was mostly known in Hollywood for one of her first motion pictures, Ecstasy, where she appeared nude and her character abandoned both of the men she had slept with during the film, with no consequences. The nudity on screen wasn't the main cause of scandal in American media. It was the fact that a female character didn't have remorse or misgivings about using men for her pleasure and being totally independent. Many were shocked and horrified by this blatant portrayal of sexuality, and the bad press surrounding the film would overshadow Hedy's career for much of her life. In fact, before she emigrated to America, her first husband, Friedrich Mandl, an arms dealer with Nazi ties, tried to purchase every copy of the film so no one would see her nude figure.
While I'm alone and blue as can be, dream a little dream of me.
Hounded by critics of her now infamous performance in Ecstasy, Hedy sought refuge at MGM Studios, where she was warmly welcomed by Louis Mayer, co-founder of the company. During her stint in Hollywood, she acted alongside some of the biggest names in film at the time. Clark Gable, Lana Turner, and Judy Garland were all co-stars of Hedy's, but she never had the opportunity to expand the diversity of her roles. She was often typecast as the glamorous but irrelevant love interest, who didn't get much character development. None of the films she acted in had the impact or the iconic boundary-pushing themes that Ecstasy offered. This wasn't just a problem for her, but for many actresses in Hollywood during the 1940s.
The feminist movement that developed in the 60s and 70s was honestly much more likely to look back to people like Hedy Lamarr in the 1930s than they were to look at the roles that actresses had gotten during the war. Because those films were so often about emphasizing femininity and women's sexual allure in really conventional ways.
Hedy encountered more problems than just stereotypical roles in Hollywood. Because of her Austrian ethnicity and her Nazi ex-husband, Hedy was inherently distrusted by many in Hollywood and in the general American public, as many of German descent were during the war. When there were opportunities for celebrities like herself to participate in the war effort, she always joined in. From working in the kitchen at the Hollywood Canteen to going on cross-country bond-selling tours, Hedy was determined to assist her adopted country to the best of her abilities. Her persistence in aiding the United States is what brought spread-spectrum technology to fruition. Even though her invention was rejected for military use during the war, it would later serve the country and the world as the catalyst in the invention of mass-consumed wireless technology. When Hedy Lamarr lived with her first husband, Friedrich Mandl, an arms dealer who was later implicated as a supplier to the Nazi regime. She became aware of the fact that the fascist leaders of Italy, as well as the leaders of many other nations, were looking for a weapon that could guarantee that wireless signals sent from ships to guide their missiles and torpedoes would not be interfered with. When she fled to America and threw herself into promoting support of the war effort, she met composer George Antheil. Hedy recruited him to help her design the weapon that her ex-husband had failed to create. Known as the bad boy of music, he had a sizable amount of knowledge about the function of player pianos, whose interfaces contributed to the designs of spread-spectrum technology. They spent many hours together trying to configure a machine that could hop to different radio signals every few seconds in a randomized pattern. The system that Lamarr and Antheil ended up with was extremely intricate. It utilized 88 different frequencies to broadcast a signal over. 88, incidentally, is the number of keys on a player piano. The tests of their invention were quite successful, and they received a patent for the technology on the 11th of August, 1942. Despite being the answer to many problems on the naval front of the war, the United States rejected the system for military use. Part of the problem with the technology was the fact that the men who reviewed the patent were skeptical about Hedy's contributions, and thus oversimplified the system. One official was quoted as saying, "How are we going to fit a piano in a submarine?" For a few days, the press followed the story of Hedy's invention, but it was quickly forgotten. It seemed that Woman in Science was not an entertaining news story. The suppression of news about women's accomplishments outside their traditional roles in society continually plagued the American media during the war and afterwards.
So what happened to her is sort of what happened to lots and lots of women, only in a public way and in a more, maybe a more explicit way. So for instance, women who did mechanical kinds of work on assembly lines or in working in R&D in businesses were often encouraged and celebrated for the ways in which they stayed feminine, for wearing skirts, for putting on makeup, and they were encouraged to do that, and not for the really, really important scientific work that they did.
When the patent came up for renewal, Hedy did not take her chance, and she lost her claim to spread-spectrum technology, the thing she had so lovingly produced as a sign of her patriotism to America. As she grew older, her acting career waned alongside her youthful beauty, and she became plagued by court cases about divorces and alleged shoplifting sprees. She turned away from acting, focusing on raising her 3 children, and never made a comeback in Hollywood, although she made a few attempts in the 60s. No one took notice of her incredible mind, only the plastic surgery she underwent. She continued to invent late into her life, but not to the magnitude of her earlier achievements. After she lost her claim to the patent, when she failed to renew it, her invention was used in many different systems that provided the technological basis for wireless, cellular, and internet connections. However, she was not recognized for her contribution to the communications field until 1997, 3 years before her death.
The chestnut trees, the wishing well.
Today, Hedy's impact on the world can be seen in most people's daily routines. Her invention helped jumpstart mass-consumed wireless technology and is used as a base for things like cell phones and Bluetooth. She also had an impact on the feminist movement of the 1960s, as her character from Ecstasy was seen as an independent woman, and Hedy herself as someone to be appreciated and not reviled. Her legacy, then, is twofold. As a leader in the communications field and a groundbreaker in feminism, Hedy Lamarr has had an immeasurable impact on how we live. She is both a role model for girls looking to take part in science and in film. Many young women have been inspired by her story, from her escape from Austria to her recognition as a pioneer in technology. Her mind is the reason we are continually able to make even more advances in science today, improving lives and becoming more knowledgeable about the world around us.